because we have Charles Mee, who just wrote Utopia. So tell us how you came up with Utopia in these dystopian times.
Well, it was easy. I mean, Ariel Kraft, who runs the Cutting Ball Theater in San Francisco and is a wonderful person, asked me what I might like to write about. And I said, well, sure, a 9-year-old girl and her mother go to a cafe and for coffee and ice cream and get to listen to all the other people in the cafe having conversations. And the people are black and white and Asian and South American and Indian and straight and gay and lesbian, young, old. But none of them happen to mention that. They're not denying differences in race and gender and age, but they're not living in a world where these are difficult issues that need to be addressed. They live in the world that has evolved beyond that to a place where everyone is living together and feeling good together and just needing to talk about food and tea and love. And this is Utopia. This is the world the 9-year-old wants to live in, the world that really feels good to everyone. So of course they sing and dance and eat croissants.
Yes, Utopia is anything that involves ice cream. I agree with you and the 9-year-old girl. I'm curious because when you do all these plays, you blend the art, like in First Love with Magritte, and then you have the dance like you did with Vienna, and then you have the play. So do you I'm curious about the structure. Do you write the whole structure of the play first and then think, oh, I can insert art here, I can insert dance here, I can insert music here? You really write these multidisciplinary things. It's amazing.
Yeah, I mean, but I'm far less organized than that. I don't create a structure and an arc and then put things in it. I just get up in the morning and I think, oh, that looks wonderful, that picture in my mind. And so I make a note of that. And then, and then that guy walks through and he says this, and then she says that, and then he says something else. And then I have breakfast. And then after breakfast, I go back to my computer and something else occurs to me. And I never write draft 1, draft 2, draft 3 of a play. I just write and rewrite and fix and cut and paste and move it back and forth and around. And so just all at the same time, I write about 342 drafts of a play. And then when nothing else happens in my idle daydreaming mind, I think, okay, that's finished.
Sounds like you have a party in your head.
I love it. I can't stop. It's really terrible. I keep trying to slow down. I think I should, especially at my age, I'm 82, I think it's time for me to slow down. But I have this obsessive compulsive disorder and I can't stop myself from just scribbling. And by the end of the year, I've written too much.
No, never. But I like the best of all is because I am not fond of Greek theater at all, but you make Greek theater entertaining. I mean, that big love at the signature, oh my gosh. I mean, the way they thumped and banged around and it was very exciting.
Well, it sort of helps to have a genius director. And that was Big Love was directed by Tina Landau at the signature. She did a fabulous job.
Do you have directing experience of your own to go into when you write?
Yeah, I used to direct plays when I was in college, but then I stopped. And the other thing is that I think no other playwright behaves like this, but years ago, wandering around Europe, I thought, the playwrights who get the best productions are the dead playwrights. Maybe that's because they don't go to rehearsal. So the director and the actors are free to do whatever they want to do. And so ever since then, I've never gone to a rehearsal.
But it must help that your daughter directs a lot of your plays.
Oh, sure. Well, I mean, we did grow up together, my daughter and I. So we have a lot of the same impulses and feelings.
Sensibilities.
Yep.
And I love the fact that you put your plays out there so that anyone can do them and do what they want with them. And I noticed that one of my favorite people is Indigo Nemiko, the new stage company. She did, Rules and I'm blanking out the other one, but Thursdays. Do you ever see what people do with your plays and get a kick out of it?
Oh, sure. I always go to opening night. I never go to rehearsals, but I always go to opening night. And, you know, of course, because I haven't gone to rehearsal, sometimes they do something that I think is a lot worse than I was thinking of. But then often they do stuff that's a lot better than anything I was ever thinking of. And I love that.
It's amazing. It's amazing what new things you find out about your play when you see someone else do it.
Right.
That happens all the time. I recently did a play that was supposed to be a comedy with some dramatic elements. It turned out to be a drama with comedic elements. You know, when I saw someone read it. You know.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Another thing is like, so you're doing Utopia for I'm going to get this wrong, the cutting room theater.
Cutting Ball Theater.
Cutting Ball Theater in California, which they commissioned. But I was wondering, do you like see theater companies around the country or around the world and think, oh, I'd like to write a play for them? Or do people come to you like in California and say, oh, we are commissioning you to write a play? And when they commission you, do they say, we wanted to have this theme?
No, I mean, usually when people commission a play, they just want me to do whatever I'd like to do, and I'm happy to do that.
Oh, good. And do you go after see theater across the country and world and say, oh, I'd like to write a play for them?
No, I never do that. I only ever, if I write a play and then I just give it to a friend. I never give it to somebody I don't know, so that I know that I'm giving it to somebody that is a soulmate.
It seems that your technique is very much oriented toward the subconscious. I mean, you put an idea in there and then it comes out sort of later. Is that the case?
I guess.
Yeah, that's the way it is for me.
Anybody else want to ask? I mean, I'm taking over the conversation here. Mark, I know, Mark sees everything you do. Mark just...
I don't think anybody could. You're so prolific, but I enjoy everything I see. I'm just wondering, often you take material from elsewhere and put it in. What sort of stuff have you gleaned to put in Utopia?
Honestly, I wrote that so recently, I don't remember. But it's true that I, years ago fell in love with the work of the collage artist Robert Rauschenberg,
Mm-hmm.
and thought, oh yeah, when he finished art school, he moved to New York, he moved to Soho, he got a loft in an abandoned factory building, and then he just started wandering around the streets of Soho, picking junk up off the streets, bringing it back to his loft and gluing it to a canvas. And I thought, that's what I want to do, because then, I mean, when he finished, yeah, that was how America looked then. So now I just go out and I pick stuff up and I stick it into a play, and that's the world we live in.
You did a lot with Anne Bogart and the City Company, which I know is one of Mark's favorite. So how did you get involved with them?
Well, I say I only give a play to a friend. I graduated from college in 1960 and wrote plays, and then got very involved in anti-Vietnam War politics and became a kind of an activist on that, and then began writing books about American international relations and blah, blah, blah. And this just led to 20 years of having nothing to do with the theater. And then, but some critics were saying that my history books read like a novel. So I thought, oh, I'll write a novel. So I lived off credit cards for a year and wrote a novel, and then the doorbell rang, and I answered the door, and there was this guy with a piece of 8.5 by 14-inch pink paper. So anyway, so this novel I reread after I got this bad news, and I thought, oh, this novel is junk. So I took it out and threw it in a trash can on the corner. And then I woke up the next morning and I thought, oh, there was stuff in there just about my own life that I'd like to remember. So I went back out to get it out of the trash can, and it was gone.
Oh
And
no.
I thought, oh, well, I better make some notes before I forget. So I came back home and wrote some notes, and that was a trilogy of one-act plays. And I thought, oh, I see, if I'm just writing for myself, for what I want to remember and think about and what I love, this is the form it takes. So I need to go back to writing plays.
Oh.
So I went back to writing plays. I wrote a play, and I didn't know anybody to give it to. I didn't know anybody in the theater anymore after all those years. But there was this guy who worked in the Xerox shop around the corner, and I knew he had something to do with the theater. So I took my play in and I handed it to him. And I said, I wrote this play and I don't know who I could give it to. He said, oh, I'll give it to my friend Joe Papp at the Public Theater. That was Wally Shawn. And
No, inconceivable.
So then a couple of days later, Joe Papp called me and said, I like your play. Now all we need is a director. I have a director, Martha Clark. So he made a lunch date for me with Martha Clark. And Martha said, I like your play, but I'm thinking now I'm going to do this dance theater piece about Vienna at the turn of the century. I said, oh, I'll write the text for you. She said, no, there's not going to be any text. It's a dance theater piece. I said, no, don't worry, I'll write the text. It'll be okay. She said, okay. So I wrote the text and we did that piece called Vienna List House. It was produced by a woman named Lynn Austin. So after we did that, Lynn Austin called me and said, and now I have this other director I work with named Anne Bogart, and she would like to work with you. So that's how I met Anne Bogart. So what happened in my life? I only went from friend to friend to friend to friend. And I thought, right, okay, got it. That's the only way for me to work. So that's all I've ever done.
Wow, it's amazing how one thing leads to another.
You end up working with nobody but soulmates, people who love the kind of thing you love.
Oh.
So, yeah.
It's amazing because like when you want to send a play out, there are like so many rules and regulations. They say it's unsolicited, we don't accept it. You're not from Ireland, you're not from London, you're from New York, you're not from New York. I mean, you're blessed, you have such great friends. And the amazing thing is that you give your play to the copy center person without knowing he's Wally Shawn or anything. And you will just give it to him. It's just like so fabulous a story. It gives me so much hope and courage. Did you do the play called Jackson Heights? About about Jackson Heights. I don't know the title, remember the title. I think I came to see it at Signature Theater. Or you directed it?
Oh, no. Was it called Queens Boulevard?
Yes. Right. Queens Boulevard. It was so colorful. My friend was in it. Geeta Sittigal was in it. And it was just so fabulous. It just like really seemed like Jackson Heights, you know. Like,
oh, thanks.
I really enjoyed it.
For us all, you were great to keep us going. We got to keep going. All right.
Thanks very much. Now, can I stick around and watch you all talk, or do I have to go away?
Oh, no, stick around. Oh, please do. And if you want to say anything or interject or questions, it's like, you know, this is just a mass conversation. So, but in the meantime, you can see Utopia, which is running till November 15th. And also, I'd like to introduce Roberta Gumbel and Susan Kander, who have written Driving While Black, which was supposed to be at the Baruch Performing Arts Center in March, but then COVID shut it down. You know, this is Kansas City, Omaha, and California. How do all these different disparate things get together to create this wonderful opera, which I'm curious to hear more about?
Well, I live in New York, and Roberta used to live in New York. Then she moved back to Kansas City, and but we have been friends for a very, very long time. She started singing my work 25 years ago. And she's the voice in my ear whenever I'm just idly writing, setting text. She is my default go-to voice in my ear.
And Roberta, will you tell us about DWB?
Well, Susan and I were talking about different possibilities for a plot or a story. And she came to me one day and she said, I know what I want to write about. Or she called me. And she said, I want to write about the conversations we've had about you raising your son in this world right now with all the racial profiling and everything else. Because we talked very frankly about the fears I have of my son driving while Black. So I said, but Susan, you can't write that. Nobody would want to hear your viewpoint, or at least it wouldn't have the same impact. So she said, well, we'll find an author. And we couldn't find an author. And then she finally came to me and she said, well, you have to write it. And I said, well, I'm a singer, I'm not a librettist. But she says, well, you're going to write it anyway. So I wrote it. And it's autobiographical, but not meant to really bare my soul. It's more about the world right now than my own personal world. And so it's a story that starts with the child at birth in the car, he's not born in the car, but riding in the back seat of the car, through the time that he learns to drive. And I have to give him car keys and trust that when he goes out, he will be safe.
That must be a horrifying moment for a parent, I swear.
It has its moments, let me tell you.
Yeah.
The background to that is that we both have sons, but my sons are A, white, and B, grew up in New York City where they had no opportunity to learn to drive. They weren't driving, their friends weren't driving. I didn't worry at all in those teen years, 16, 17, 18. My kids didn't drive till they were 25 because we didn't own a car. So while Roberta was teaching her son to drive and he was getting his permit and he was on the street and he was driving the car, his son's a little younger than mine, I thought, oh my God, how can you live through this? Just how do you live through this? And we talked about it a lot.
And I'm the only singer in the piece. The son is there only in my view, but you never see anyone on stage but myself and the two instrumentalists, New Morse Code. So in one of the scenes, I'm referring to the fact that he's in the back seat facing backwards and I can't see him and I can't comfort him and I'm a new mom. And then eventually he rides in the front with me and we have arguments and we have all kind of conflict, but also good times. And then I teach him to drive and then I set him free. And the last words of the piece, not to give anything away, but I'll be waiting for your key in the front door every time you go. You know, I'm going to always be hoping or wondering how you're going to be doing out there in this very crazy world that we live in.
We wanted to present to the audience, we have one singer, the mother, one character going all the way through one narrative arc, but that narrative arc is punctuated over and over and over by what we call bulletins, in which the singer, the mother, Roberta, stops being the mother and takes on, I don't know, 7, 8, 9, 10 different personas to present very isolated, very intense situations that some of them we've read about in the newspapers. Some of them are experiences that her family told her about, things that you hear from other people, generic experiences. But the narrative arc is continuously punctuated by events that pile up in the mother's mind, so that as the son grows older, the world becomes much more dangerous in an immediate kind of way.
Susan is also a writer, and she took my words and shaped them to the music the way that she knows how, that I would not have known how to do.
Yes, I think that's great.
Yeah, but the scenes came. Roberta wrote very. She wrote standalone scenes. She has a phenomenal understanding of what works on a stage in a theater. She's a performer, and has an innate understanding of how a scene works, and even a scene that has only one person in it, or at least one performer in it. And so she wrote scene after scene after scene of things that seemed to her to tell the story, not always in a chronological way. There was sometimes that we played with the order of events and where to put certain bulletins and where did we need this and where did we need that. So she would send me scenes that were written on paper. And they were just all of them whole and complete, is all I can say. So that I was able to set them each as complete scenes. Some are long, some are short. But it was a really terrific way to approach storytelling. It was not a structure I'd ever worked in before, but it tells a story in an extraordinarily intense way. Very rich, very intense.
I'm a rabid opera fan, and I'm absolutely delighted at the amount of opera that seems to be coming back to us these days. So many young people are writing operas now.
The sort of silver lining of having been canceled by COVID is that we did get to make this video, and the video is a real genre, I don't want to say mashup, but it brings a lot of the techniques of new chamber music and especially the percussion ballpark of chamber music, which is visually extremely arresting.
How did the Omaha Opera Company get involved?
Baruch Performing Arts is the company that was originally going to do the New York premiere, and then they invited us to do the video in a way that they could present it. And Ted Altschuler, who's artistic director there, put out a call. He sort of put out information to other companies and said, I'm doing this, does anyone want to join? At the same time, somebody else was talking about it in some other Zoom meeting seminar. And I think that's where Opera Omaha found out about it. And they called my publisher, and then I contacted them.
Did you create different styles for the bulletins rather than the narrative part?
Very good question. Yes, there is a difference. The bulletins are each one of them quite different, correct, Roberta?
And would you ever consider maybe having the bulletins done by other voices?
In fact, there's a company in Washington, D.C. called Urban Arias, which does opera. And they are going to be doing this in the spring, also digitally, also as a film. But they very courteously asked me if it was okay if they did this or did that or added this or added that. And it's a whole new team, it's a whole new singer. And we said, go for it, do whatever you want. So I don't know what their plans are, but I think it's going to look a whole lot different from ours.
This story sounds so, present right now that I think it would appeal to everyone, and I think everyone will get a lot out of it. It sounds like to me.
I hope so. I hope so. Yeah.
Yeah, we think that by combining this different, how many people have ever heard a band that consisted of a cello and percussion? It just is a different sound world. And then combine that with voice, it's a new sounding thing. And so we're hoping that because of this video, which is shot really from the point of view of new music, as opposed to a sort of it's not an archival record of the opera as it was done on a stage. It is a stage show, but it's much more than that in this video, which is it's the silver lining of this ghastly COVID experience, that we have gotten to record this piece in this new way, which I hope will appeal to a real broad number of people.
That also applies to your instrumentalists. We have at the electronics at our disposal, we have a virtual sea of instruments and sounds and things that can be done. Wonderful.
Right, we do.
And everyone, you have a chance to see all these wonderful things going on. You don't have to leave your house. You've got Utopia and you've got DWB. So I'm looking forward to all of this. I'm so excited.
Hey there, this is Jay Michaels, and this is Indie in 60 on High Drama. Jeffrey Milstein was known as a brilliant accountant for much of his professional life. But you know what he always wanted to be? Always wanted to be a producer. So a few years ago, he did just that. Today, the Milstein group of artists features Keith Brown and his plays Shadow Kids and the solo production Lost in the Field. Both are looking at off-Broadway runs and subsequent film versions. The hip-hop singer Justice, whose musical fan base is ever-growing thanks to her music videos, not to mention the pilot to her new superhero TV series, Soldier of God. Tony Anthony, one of the leading actors in the days of the spaghetti westerns, has taken up trivia tracking with 2 new books. In Memoriam, the stories of the famous and not so famous, which is selling well on Amazon, and the soon-to-be out Quotes to Touch a Nerve. You'd be surprised what some of the famous and infamous are saying. Jeff is also partner in Environmental Disinfecting Agency. I thought you said he wanted to be a producer, Jay. I hear you cry. The company is run by artists charged with sanitizing buildings with offices, studios, and theaters. Jeff is now sanitizing theaters. He is blazing the trail for the future. It takes just that kind of financial wizard to understand that math. Want to know about the Milstein group of artists? Contact jmcommet@gmail.com. That's jmcomnet@gmail.com. Next time, Jesse and Jessica are making a ripple effect. This is Jay Michaels for Indie in 60 on High Drama.
And also, I just came to my attention that there's another show going on. Jan, what is that? She sent you a postcard.
Yes, I wanted to mention that Shakespeare Sports will be streaming the Bard's play Pericles, Prince of Tyre tomorrow on YouTube at 5 p.m. The Zoom link is below, and you can find more information on their website. Pericles is seldom performed, so it should be a very interesting presentation. It's known that Shakespeare wrote only part of this play, and modern editors generally agree that he's responsible for the last half, and that the first 2 acts detailing the many voyages of Pericles were written by the panderer, dramatist, and pamphleteer George Wilkins. That's tomorrow, Sunday, October 11th at 5 p.m.
So thank you one and all, and Jewish holidays are still going on, so happy Jewish holidays.